Hi there. That you're watching this video right now tells me that you're at least curious about, or maybe even committed to, becoming a better communicator or a better presenter, maybe even a better public speaker. Great, you're in the right place at the right time. Here's why. Public speaking or effective communication skills are one of the most sought after skills in the entire professional and business world. The ability to stand up in front of a group of people of any size and compel them to action is one of the most powerful forms of influence on earth today. It's extremely valuable, and it's a skill that's absolutely worth developing. Here's the challenge. Many people start off afraid, like me. I used to be terrified of public speaking. I don't mean nervous. I don't mean that I was a little bit afraid or that I got a little nervousness in my belly. I mean that if you asked me to do a talk, there was almost no way you could ever convince me to do it. And if somehow you had the right leverage and you got me to say yes, I would feel sick for the weeks leading up to it, and I would actually lose weight. I was terrified. I would take the stage hoping there was something to hold on to so that I wouldn't fall over. And I would be concerned the entire time that I was simply going to forget my words, stumble along, and screw the whole thing up. I was afraid. And then I overcame it. And from that position, I'm now in a place where I've spoken professionally over 25 countries around the world. I've met the most incredible people. I've had the privilege of sharing the stage with people like Sir Richard Branson, President Bill Clinton, Tony Robbins, John Gray, Jack Canfield, and many other really incredible people. And speaking has opened so many doors of opportunity for me: investment opportunities, employment opportunities, client opportunities, and opportunities for fun. And so I'm really glad you're here right now, because I'm going to share with you 3 core things that can help you take your presentations and make them better, make them more influential, and make them more engaging for the audiences. Are you in? Are you ready? Because here we go with part 1. Part 1 is about rapport. It's about connecting with an audience as quickly as possible. Let's take a backward step first. Why? Why do we want to connect with them so quickly? And also, why is connecting with them so important? So in order to answer that, I think we need to get a time machine, and we need to go back hundreds of thousands of years, and we need to imagine early humans sitting around the fire. Remember, they didn't have Netflix and iTunes, right? How did they learn? How did they share their history? How did they teach each other? They did it through stories. And so as a result, we humans love both to tell and to hear great stories. It's in our nature. And so when somebody gets up to do a talk, and they figure out how to get quick rapport with an audience, they are invoking something magical, and that is the instinctive desire of an audience to be an audience. It starts, however, with rapport. Rapport is effectively a sense of resonance with the audience. It's what keeps them in the story. If you imagine, for example, what it's like to go to a movie where something happens in the movie that takes you out of the story, some really terrible wasted digital special effect that really just didn't work very well, or some bad acting, or something that just violates the laws of physics. It takes you out of the story for that moment. In other words, the movie breaks rapport with you. Well, a public speaker can do the exact same thing. The first key is to establish a really good connection with the audience. And in order to do that, we need to understand who that audience is. So first of all, it means understanding some of the demographics of the audience, like where are you geographically? What industry you're speaking in? What are some common themes that are interesting to your entire audience? I remember once getting invited to do a talk for an inner city school in London, England. These kids were tough kids. Some of them had already purchased their first weapons. They were not, simply growing up with white picket fences and going to daycare in the morning. These were tough kids. And so I was invited to come and do a talk for these kids because I too, as a kid, was homeless and I'd gone through my challenges. And so I thought it'd be fun to come and share with them, hey, it doesn't have to be this way. And so I got to the school, walked up to the headmistress, and I said, all right, I'm ready. Which class will I be speaking for? She said, all of them. I said, excuse me? Pardon me, what? What do you mean all of them? How many different classes do you have here? What's the age range of the school? Immediately thinking I wish I'd done my research. At that point, she informed me that the school was kindergarten through grade 12. In other words, my audience would be made up of every child of every age from age 5 to 18 or 19 years old. And I was going to have to speak to all of them, about 200 of them, at the same time at General Assembly. Quickly, I started thinking to myself, what is in common with all of these kids? Not very much. Kids are a tough audience to begin with. They have short attention spans, especially today. So I had to immediately come up with some things that were in common. And I found 2 things immediately. One was they all like to play games. They all like to play games. So I thought of a game that they would all like to play. The second topic that I realized was common to all of them at the time I was doing this presentation was Harry Potter. Somehow, J.K. Rowling had managed to write a book that appealed to everyone. If they were 5 years old, they liked Harry Potter. And if they're 18 or 19 years old, they might not admit it, but they liked Harry Potter. And so I interwove some Harry Potter metaphors and examples into my talk. And as a result, kept the kids completely at attention for about an hour and a half, to the point where I had teachers coming up to me afterwards saying, "How did you do that? I can't keep my one class, my one age group. I can't keep their attention for an hour. How did you do it with the whole room?" So how I did it was finding things that are common to the whole audience and being able to address those things. That's your first step. When you know you're giving a talk, whether it's for 4 people, 40 people, 400 people, you want to know who it is you're speaking to and figuring out what are their common concerns so that you can weave them into your talk and maybe even address those concerns for them. Now, the next step is recognizing that they all speak in different languages. I don't mean German, English, French, Italian, Swedish, and Norwegian. I mean that there are 3 core languages that people speak. And some people are bilingual, and some people are trilingual, and some people speak only one. These are the languages: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. What this means is some people like a really fast communication. They talk fast, and they're loud, and there's a lot of passion in their voice and intensity. These people are often what we refer to as visual people. The reason that we refer to them as visual is that they kind of think in pictures, and since a picture's worth 1,000 words, they talk really quickly and intensely, painting all the colors. Here's the problem. Visual people do not generally have great rapport with people at the other end of the spectrum that are more kinesthetic or feeling-centered people. These people prefer slower, more considered, deliberate communication with punctuated pauses and time to reflect. And those people have almost no rapport with the visual people. And in the middle, you've got a group of people who like their words to be pronounced clearly, and they like there to be a rhythm and a cadence to the presentation so that it is easy to follow and predictable. And those people are more sound-oriented, or what we would call auditory in nature. The challenge is there are some speakers who are truly only monolingual. They walk out on their stage and they're all about passion and motivation and excitement. And what's going to happen if they do that is about 2/3 of the audience is going to get up and leave. And if they are too polite to get up and leave, they're going to take out their phone and they're going to start doing something else. They're not going to be present to the message. On the other hand, someone might come in and be very halting and quiet and talk about feelings. And some of the audience is going to love them. But about 2/3 of the audience are going, "Hey, when's this going to even start?" And so what we want to do to really create rapport with an audience is find out how to speak in all 3 of those languages. That's the first step. How can you speak in all 3 of those languages? Here's how you can do it. Right now, before you even do a presentation, before you even stand in front of an audience, go out with your friends, have dinner with them, and tell stories like you normally do, only with one difference. Expand your range. Try being louder and faster than you normally are. Try being quieter, slower, more deliberate, more contemplative than you normally are. And expand that range so that you can see how many of those languages that you can get to in a single story, and how often you can move between them, creating a roller coaster ride of experience for your audience, or for your friends in this case, as you're telling the story. This one skill can change everything for many speakers. And believe me, you already know this, don't you? Haven't you been there where you've seen a talk where the speaker is just droning on and on and on? And frankly, rather than being a speaker, they should be an airline attendant telling you that in case the cabin depressurizes, oxygen masks will drop from the ceiling. To buckle your seatbelt. I mean, seriously? We've all been to a talk like that, where somebody's completely monotone, picking one language to speak to the audience in, and giving them no emotional variety at all. Absolutely no rapport. Any longer than 5 minutes in one modality like that, you're running the risk of breaking rapport. So now, let's talk about the third step. How to build rapport instantly the minute you start your presentation. I mean, look, you've got to choose one of those modalities to speak in, right? You got to choose. Are you going to start with visual, auditory, kinesthetic? Well, let's play it out. Imagine you start in visual. There's your audience. 4 people, 40 people, 400 people. Doesn't matter. You start in visual mode. Hey, I'm glad you're here for this talk. Let's get started. It's going to be very motivating. We're going to take lots of action. All right. Here's what's going on. The visual people in your audience are going, yeah, let's do it. The auditory people are going, oh, take it easy, dude. And the kinesthetic people have left the room. They may even have called the police. It feels like an assault to them. Of course, I'm kidding. I'm not totally kidding though about the net effect. And the net effect is that 2/3 of your audience you're going to break rapport with if you start in a visual mode. So then what if we decide to go all the way to the other end? Let's start in a really kinesthetic mode. And this is actually where we want to start. And I'll show you why. If we start in a kinesthetic mode, if we start with long pauses, if we start with connecting with the audience, just scanning the whole audience, taking them in and connecting with them, and beginning your presentation with deliberation, with power, with punctuated pauses, then what's going to happen right away is the kinesthetic people in the audience are in. And even though you may not at this point have rapport with the auditory or visual people, even at this point, if you don't have the connection with the auditory or visual people, you won't have turned them off. At worst, what's going to happen is the auditory and visual people won't know the talk has started yet. They'll be going, hey, what's that guy doing on the stage? I can't even hear him yet. Once you've got the kinesthetic people with you, then you can warm it up, increase the pace a little, add a little cadence, ask them, how does this sound to you? I've got a message I want to share today, and begin to increase the level of auditory passion into the message. Now the auditory people are coming along for the ride. The kinesthetic people, you already had the rapport, they'll come with you. And once you've got those two groups, you can then step up the passion, the volume, and the intensity. And the other people will be going, wow, he finally started to talk. And the kinesthetic and auditory people, they'll come along for the ride, as long as you don't spend too much time in that purely visual mode. Once you've run that pattern, what many people call the charisma pattern, you will find that the best thing to do is to then create a bit of a roller coaster where you take people through those different emotional feelings all the way through your presentation. So to recap, first of all, find out what's in common for your audience and speak to those commonalities. Remember to use all three of the modalities so that you are speaking to the kinesthetic, to the auditory, and to the visual people all throughout your talk. And always remember to start with the charisma pattern. Begin with feelings, move to sounds, and then hit the visual before the roller coaster starts. If you just do this one video, if you just do this one part, you can massively transform the way you do presentations. Again, whether these are small presentations for 3 or 4 people or massive presentations in front of a television audience, the principles are the same. So go home, practice, and take these things on board. Are you ready for video 2?